Hi, thank you for judging this debate. So I have a couple problems with his speech. The first of which is that there's a failure to define what animal testing actually means and whether it's restricted to a ban on just medical and cosmetic uses or all uses in general. So a lot of what he outlined doesn't really sound like a bad idea to ban. For animals and people, and those things probably should be banned, but banning all animal testing goes too far. And I'll explain why, specifically testing a medical treatment on animals that is intended to be used by animals to elucidate issues of medical problems of animals of the same species should not be banned. Hopefully, it'll become more clear when I explain it later. So, examples of medical conditions that animals are subject to can include diabetes and cancer, and testing treatments that were intended for animals on animals would ultimately be the best for and outweigh anything that he can claim. So I'll address the benefits specifically in the context of his main arguments and weaving in some rebuttal. So his first argument is that animal testing is inaccurate or not effective. So he claims that testing products on animals doesn't really provide an accurate picture of how these drugs will affect humans, but testing drugs on an organism that the end product is meant for of other members of that species is probably the most accurate you can get. The bodily systems are the same, the animal's physiological functioning is the same as other animals in their species, and so the results are directly translatable. He also claims that in vitro testing is a viable alternative. In vitro testing means in a test tube. I highly doubt that a piece of plastic is a better model organism than members of an animal's own species. And this would reduce the confounding variables further than it would be if you use test tubes because they're not living things or nothing like living things, and it's kind of ridiculous to think that they would be a better, more accurate fit than other members of the animal species. So he says that testing on animals fails to give ethical consideration to the animals. I think that my plan gives the most ethical consideration because under his plan there would be no developing products on animals by testing it on animals, meaning that there's a net increase in animal death and suffering in the long term because they don't have access to the kind of medications that would be developed on them. And animals wouldn't at all be considered secondary to humans, but they would rather be seen worthy of our time and effort because we can recognize that how they feel and any kind of pain that they have, we would try to alleviate that. So we have to recognize them as moral equals. Testing to improve the lives of animals is kind of a has a prerequisite mindset of caring about the animals and treating them ethically before we can do any kind of testing. So, okay, one of his last points is that he claims that animal testing can be too costly, but gives no reason why that's bad or names any specific alternatives that would be less expensive. And even if he did, I think it's okay to spend a lot of money when ethical decisions or on something like this that does a lot of good. And I don't think money should come into play when ethical decisions are being considered because the overall happiness on an animal should have no price tag. If his Shih Tzus were diabetic, would he want someone saying that he shouldn't give them insulin because it costs too much? I don't think so. I think that money shouldn't even be a factor when these kind of decisions are being made. And so, what would happen if all animal testing were banned? The companies would still want to make sure that their products are safe for human use, so this could drive a market underground, and it would be harder for the government to control because it wouldn't be clear what kind of testing is going on, and the government wouldn't be able to stop it if it got too far out of hand, and so this would mean that the animals would probably be harmed more. And even if banning in even if not banning animal testing in the short term does cause some kind of pain, the long term benefits of healing outweigh the short term because we would be able to find a reasonable doses of drugs for animals that need them, and this would cause less suffering in the long term. Whereas under his model, we wouldn't get those drugs as immediately because the test tube systems aren't as an accurate match as other animals of the same species. And I think evaluating this under a utilitarian framework is the best way to do it because it maximizes the happiness for the most people or animals. And under my plan, one or a couple animals would be able to save many, and not finding a solution to animal health problems would be worse. And so, because of this kind of testing that I've outlined, it's more accurate, effective, ethical, and avoids driving the market underground. I don't think all animal testing should be banned. Thanks.